Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on from Bottlenecks to Launchpads. I'm very excited to have everyone on here today and to share with everyone how AI is revolutionizing product compliance in manufacturing. My name is Kunal Chopra. I'm the CEO and founder of Certivo. Certivo is an AI-powered regulatory and compliance management platform specifically targeted towards manufacturers, where we streamline the entire process of getting companies to compliance faster, better, cheaper, with the goal of being always market ready and always compliant. So that being said, I think let's get started with today's webinar. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will go from there. All right. Hopefully everyone can see this. And yeah, so let's get started. So as you can see, this image depicts a modern high-tech manufacturing facility with digital overlays showcasing compliance data and AI visualizations. This represents the kind of advanced data-driven approach that we're going to be discussing today. Over the next 45 minutes to an hour, we'll explore how AI is helping manufacturers overcome compliance bottlenecks and unlock new levels of innovation. So with that being said, let's dive in directly. All right, today we'll cover some tactical, no-fluff ways to improve your compliance processes. You'll learn where your team is losing the most time and how AI can help streamline those areas. I'll share some specific workflows that you can implement tomorrow to transform supplier collaboration, regulatory tracking, and audit readiness. We'll also look at real-world examples and the key metrics you should be tracking to demonstrate ROI to your leadership. As a bonus, I've also included some templates and playbooks that you can use. So with that being said, let's dive in, and hopefully by the end of this, we can make your compliance function a lot more effective and efficient. Let's talk a little bit about the compliance bottleneck. The compliance bottleneck is a major issue that can significantly slow down product velocity. It's a common scenario where the product is ready to launch, but the compliance team is still chasing critical documentation like SDSs, certificates of compliance, or declaration forms. And this is often due to supplier delays, poor document tracking, manual validation processes, and misalignment of regulations. I've heard stories of companies having to delay $1 million product launches because a single supplier didn't submit a required declaration on time. The compliance bottleneck is a silent killer that can really hamper a company's ability to get products to market quickly. Compliance delays can have a significant impact on a company's operations and bottom line. These delays affect key areas like time to market, OEM readiness, internal resources, brand trust, and revenue. Data shows us that 32% of manufacturers report launch delays due to incomplete compliance documentation. On average, these delays last 4 to 12 weeks, which can translate to between $1.5 million to $10 million in lost revenue per delayed product. All this just revenue left in the supply chain. Addressing compliance issues upfront, in our opinion, is crucial to avoid these costly delays and maintain a competitive edge in the market. The manual workflows that we've been relying on essentially has been failing us in several key ways. It starts with finalizing the bill of materials. Then compliance reaches out to suppliers for documentation. Suppliers send in required safety data sheets or certificates of compliance. Compliance then has to manually open and review these documents, save the documents in a shared drive, track status in a spreadsheet. They have to manually trigger any necessary follow-ups. As you can imagine, this entire process, even the way I'm speaking about it, has major problems. There's no version control, no real-time tracking. It's error-prone and certainly incredibly time-consuming. We certainly need a better way to streamline and automate this critical compliance workflow. And the goal of this tactical fix is to streamline this process of suppliers submitting and validating compliance documents. We'll create a centralized portal or intake folder where suppliers can easily upload their documents in any format. We'll use AI to automatically extract key information from the documents like document type, expiration date, chemical lists, and regulation references. The AI will also classify the documents, for example, identifying if they're related to REACH, ROHS, TISCA, or any other regulatory frameworks out there. So this will allow us to quickly flag any expired documents, substances of very high concern above thresholds, or documents that don't match our compliance frameworks. As a real-world example, you can imagine a mid-size electronics OEM using this approach to process 2,300 supplier documents, reducing manual review time by 72%, and finding 34 non-compliant STSs that have been missed previously. We have examples in Certivo as well of various customers, in fact, one processing over 8,500 documents just through the platform and automatically flagging any of these issues. So that's a key use case where we can see AI being very, very useful to the compliance process to speed up this whole manual review. Tactical fix number two, expired or missing documents like STSs, COCs, DOCs often go unnoticed until an audit, which can lead to major issues. An AI-based solution can automatically read expiration dates from these documents, can create an aging dashboard to visually track the status across your entire portfolio. It can send automatic reminders to suppliers 90, 60, 30 days before expiration to help ensure documents are kept up to date. The system can also highlight any parts that are missing compliance coverage, so you can quickly identify and address those gaps. Let's do a deep dive into one specific example. I'm sure everyone here on this call has heard of PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. They are a group of highly regulated chemicals found in many, many common products. They are a concern due to their persistence in the environment and potential health impacts. As regulations around PFAS tighten, companies need to proactively manage PFAS compliance across their products and supply chain. So here's a 5-step process that uses AI to streamline the entire PFAS compliance. Number one, collect all safety data sheets for your parts and products. Use AI to extract chemical gas numbers from the STSs. Cross-reference the gas numbers against restricted PFAS lists. Apply thresholds, example, 0.1% of PFAS content to identify compliant versus flagged parts. Score each part as compliant, flagged, or unknown to prioritize further investigation. And an example could be in the EV battery manufacturer case study, you could analyze 1,200 STSs around and find 28 parts containing PFAS above the new threshold. Imagine doing that manually. Imagine doing that one after the other. And we are all humans. We're subject to human errors. We are tired at times. When you have to go through 1,200 documents, read through them, and you can imagine the amount of time that it takes and the number of resources and people that it needs to be able to get the scale required to be able to analyze such documents. So in general, in cases like these, the focus of the compliance teams moves to being more proactive to problem solve, as opposed to being more reactive and trying to get to the solution, to get to the problem. Let the AI handle the problem solving, let the AI handle the problem detection, and let the compliance team handle the solution to that problem. The title of this slide is Building a Risk-Based Compliance Matrix. And the key point is that you can't chase every supplier equally. So you need to prioritize based on risk. This slide outlines 4 key factors to score suppliers. An example could be supplier geography, material category, regulatory exposure, example, SVHCs, conflict minerals, past performance. It then provides a simple risk matrix showing 3 example suppliers and the actions based on their risk tier. So in this particular case, ACME is at high risk, requires manual review and quarterly updates. Zintech is medium risk, requires an auto review and semi-annual updates. Europlast is low risk, only requires annual AI revalidation. So here's an example of how you can score your suppliers based on different risk criteria and create a risk management matrix. Audits can be a major time sink with lots of time, last minute scrambling to gather all your required information. There's certainly a better way, and you can get proactively audit ready using AI. First, will predefine exactly what's needed to comply with regulations. Then AI continuously monitors and updates our compliance checklist to ensure full coverage. When an audit comes up, we can generate a complete audit packet on demand, all the necessary PDFs, declarations, logs are version controlled and ready to go. A good example could be a medical device company that used Certivo solution. I'm just going to give you Certivo's example here because we are an AI-powered platform, but you really don't need to use Certivo. A lot of this can be implemented in-house as well. So in our case, a medical device company used our solution to prepare a full ROHS and REACH audit dossier in just 48 hours. Passed the audit with zero follow-up required from suppliers, huge time and cost savings, as you can imagine. This slide highlights areas where AI should not be used yet for critical decisions as the technology is still developing. And I think that's very critical to understand as well. AI is not the be-all, end-all. It's not going to solve every problem in compliance. It's definitely going to empower and power compliance teams, compliance engineers to be able to move faster and take away from their plate areas that are manual and heavy in nature today. So AI is not ideal for making material substitution decisions, interpreting complex legal regulations, or making enforcement responses without human quality assurance. But AI is really good at pattern recognition, document parsing, workflow acceleration, and surfacing potential risks for human review. And that's exactly the point of this conversation. Where in the compliance workflow can we identify areas that really require a human review versus what can be done by AI? And you want to send off to the AI all the areas that are essentially manual in nature and that the AI can do effectively, and flag for you all the areas that need your attention. And that will give you the edge over any other company out there, but more importantly, also give you the edge to be able to perform your tasks faster, better, cheaper than pretty much anyone in your team. The key here is to really leverage AI strength while maintaining human oversight, especially for consequential decisions. As the technology continues to advance, the range of appropriate AI applications will expand. But for now, it's advised that in high stakes, ambitious domains, caution is advised. The AI stack we have developed provides a comprehensive solution for managing supply chain compliance and risk. It starts with ingesting key data inputs like your bill of materials, supply information, safety data sheets, compliance documentations. Then we use OCR, natural language processing, artificial intelligence, LLMs, to extract the relevant information from these documents. We use classification engines to categorize parts and suppliers based on risk factors. We have a rule-based framework that checks data against all the regulatory requirements and company policies. And so then we use that to essentially generate outputs like compliance status per part, risk scores per supplier, audit-ready reports. And then the goal is essentially let's automate much of this manual process involved in supply chain compliance, where with the goal of freeing up your team to focus on more of the strategic initiatives like decision making. You don't want the AI to handle decision making for you, but you want it to be able to flag all the parts that require some human oversight and humans to go in and dig a little more deeper. And everyone here on this call, don't worry about taking notes or anything. I'll be sending all the PDFs, full recording will be available. So you should have access to all of this, and you can always contact us if you need more information as well. The key metrics to be tracking, in an example that we're going through, is to measure the success of your AI-powered document processing solution. And those are things like, number one, processing time, comparing the time it takes to process documents manually versus an AI system, flag ratio, the percentage of documents that are flagged as needed review for those that are clean, a response rate, the rate at which suppliers respond to our requests, audit prep, the time it takes to prepare for audit, compliance speed, the time it takes to achieve compliance. If you see fewer than 60% manual reviews, a 90% visibility into supplier coverage, an audit prep taking less than 2 days, then it's a clear sign that, hey, look, you're achieving your goals, you're delivering real value using AI. Here are some metrics I know that Certivo tracks, but these are something, as you're thinking about implementing an AI solution within your company, you can think about keeping these metrics as a benchmark to sort of go after. One thing I'll notice is definitely you must not look at AI as a replacement. So you're not trying to find a replacement solution completely to what you're currently doing. You shouldn't look at AI as, hey, I don't want to, it's either AI or it's me. It's really a combination of AI working with you to help move some of these metrics. And you've got to figure out where in the process, as we have defined here in today's webinar, areas that require AI's help and that can, where AI can help and really empower you to go faster. At the end of the day, the compliance team is still the end all be all. They are the eventual accountable party. You don't want to send the AI to be the accountable party, but you want to use and leverage AI to be able to do a lot of the work that you're doing manually. In our case, we've got our customers who essentially use AI to run through all their documents. For example, if they get a document from a supplier, they just upload it into Certivo instead of manually reviewing it and then analyze it automatically. They dump in all their bill of materials into Certivo and then let the AI go and flag which parts already have documentation on file or not. Things like that you have to manually do today. You can look at all their suppliers and which ones are responsive or not. And you can kick off campaigns directly from Certivo into their suppliers. So those are examples of how you can implement different AI processes. If you, of course, want to streamline it all into one, Certivo is a good example of a good platform that you can potentially leverage. But if not, there's certainly, you can build up a solution using GPT and all the other AI tools that are available out there in the market. Here's an example of a 7-day plan that we have outlined that you can get started. So number one, on day 1 and 2, you can identify one key regulation. And that with everything in AI or any AI solution out there, we really recommend starting small as opposed to trying to be the end all be all of everything. Take one, regulation, focus on 50 high risk parts, maybe just take one bill of materials. Days 1 on 2, just set that up. Days 3, collect all the safety data sheets and other supplier documentation for those 50 parts if you have them. Load that into an AI engine and let it analyze it. Day 5, review the results flagged by the AI system. Day 6, you'll build a dashboard to visualize the data and notify any suppliers of any issues. Day 7, show early successes with your leadership team. So here you can see in 1 week, you can test out an AI solution end to end and just set all these pieces up and make a decision. And again, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go do it with all your products, your entire portfolio. That's kind of phase 2 or 3. But phase 1 is really just test out a simple solution that has a bunch of these pieces nailed together. Use one bill of materials, 50, 60 parts, collect all the documentation, dump it into an AI engine, let it do its flagging, contact all those suppliers for information, and just set up a very simple system to go show to your leadership that, hey, look, AI is really helping me move this process faster. Within a week, I was able to, analyze very quickly, what's happening with this particular product. This slide highlights some of the key tools and templates that will be provided as part of, any compliance program. First, of course, there's an email template for sending supplier compliance requests. You must have that ready and handy. Next, a process document that outlines the SOP for document parsing. An Excel template for risk matrix to manage the risk of which vendors are performing, not, etc., which parts are high risk or not. A dashboard to visualize compliance coverage, how many parts are compliant, not, etc. Regulation tracking sheet to help monitor requirements of the regulation itself. And so you want to put all these pieces together to really get the starting points of a automated AI-powered program. And of course, again, shameless plug here, but Certivo certainly has all these pieces built in. It's something that you can use to automate, streamline, and get access, to all these pieces within a single platform. So, final words. This slide highlights a shift in how compliance is approached, moving from reactive to proactive, from firefighting to orchestration, and from siloed to collaborative. The key points are, number one, from reactive to predictive. Compliance teams are now, thanks to AI, able to anticipate and address issues before they become problems. In the past, we've always seen compliance being a very reactive function within a manufacturing organization. The goal is with AI, we finally have the opportunity to make it more proactive. Number two, from firefighting to orchestration, the compliance is now more about coordinating different elements rather than constantly putting out fires. We don't want to be in that stage. Number three, from siloed to collaborative. Compliance teams are working more closely with other parts of the organization to achieve shared goals. I think the quote in the end sort of, emphasizes what we're trying to say, which is, with the right tools and training, compliance teams can become enablers rather than blockers of progress. And this is the future that we want to strive for. We don't want compliance teams to be blockers of progress. And we hear this day in and day out from all our customers at Certivo, is that, products are ready to go to market, but compliance is not. And that's what we really, really don't want to see. So this is a very high level overview. In the next phase of this webinar, we're going to now do some deep dives and show you, a little bit how to kind of practically think through some use cases in general. So let's jump straight into that. All right. So let's start with REACH. I'm sure everyone here knows about the REACH regulation. It applies to any product imported into or manufactured in the EU that contains chemicals or mixtures. To comply with REACH, you have really 4 key steps. Number one, pass STSs, technical documents, to identify the presence of substances of very high concern that they call SVHCs. Number two, continuously monitor the ECHA candidate list for updates to stay on top of new SVHC additions. Number three, track tonnage thresholds and uses of SVHCs to ensure compliance. Number four, generate the required Article 33 declarations to communicate SVHC information down the supply chain. So here's a case study of an EU plastics manufacturer. AI analyzed, in our case, flagged 17 materials containing SVHC DBP above the threshold. This enabled the supplier to reformulate 6 months before the compliance deadline. So you can imagine, just having an AI be able to read, analyze, flag, can help now put all the data in front of you as the compliance team, so that you can use that now to effectively make decisions around, what's next. Here's an example in the case of ROS or ROHS. ROHS, which stands for Restriction of Hazardous Substances Directive. It's a key regulation, as you know, in the EU that restricts the use of certain hazardous materials and electrical and electronic components. As an AI-powered solution, in the case of Certivo, we help pass through declarations of conformity, DOCs, to identify restricted substances like lead, mercury, cadmium, and chromium. We can validate part numbers, exemption codes to ensure compliance, proactively notify if there are exemptions that are nearing expiration. In one case, a lighting OEM was able to detect 22 parts using expired exemptions, preventing the launch of a $4 million product SKU in a non-compliant state. So you can imagine if they had that in the market, that would be a major issue for them as a company. On ROS compliance verification capabilities, these can be integrated directly into your manufacturing processes, and with the goal of helping you stay ahead of regulations and avoid any costly issues that come with them, as you saw in this particular example. Here's an example in the case of TSCA, which is the Toxic Substances Control Act. It's a US law that regulates chemical substances. AI can help with TSCA compliance in many ways. Number one, extracting chemical extract service CAS numbers from safety data sheets. Imagine matching those CAS numbers directly against TSCA inventory and significant new use rule, SNUR. Imagine tracking premature notice PMN status and flagging any SNUR reporting needs. It's important to stay on top of EPA updates and adjust your AI rule sets accordingly on a weekly basis. Here's an example, as you can see, from a automotive firm that used AI to catch banned substances in time to switch suppliers before the ban took effect. Another deep dive with the EU deforestation regulation targets key commodities like wood, rubber, soy, and cocoa that are linked to deforestation. Compliance requires companies to provide geolocation data, due diligence statements, traceability records for their supply chains. In Certivo's case, our AI strategy helped map supply declarations to commodity risk, automatically scan documents for origin details, and flag any non-conforming sources. In one particular example, a furniture brand was able to screen 480 wood suppliers, identify 6 with incomplete declarations, and reroute their procurement as a result. This slide introduces our global regulation tracker that you'll see in the Certivo platform. It's essentially an AI-powered solution that helps you stay on track of constantly evolving regulatory landscape. The key value proposition is that regulations change monthly, so having an automated system to monitor and update compliance is crucial. There are 3 main capabilities of the regulation tracker: monitoring over hundreds of regulatory bodies like ECA, EPA, California Prop 65 to stay ahead of new rules and restrictions, automatically updating internal rule engine and when regulations change, so systems are always up to date, providing real-time alerts if a part in our bill of materials intersects with a new regulation restriction, allowing us to take swift action. Here's an example of the kind of alert the system would generate. Part hashtag PX1496 now affected by REACH update from May 3, 2025, new HVHC DCHP. Something like that is what you would see in a update like this. Now, again, imagine mapping these manually, tracking them, doing that across hundreds of different regulations that likely impact you, as opposed to only focusing on the key ones. That is the differentiator between how AI can use, again, its capabilities to help empower you with the right tools and give you the right knowledge to be able to start taking decisions so that you, as the compliance team, become more strategic with the goal of trying to get your products to compliant and to market faster and gain revenue for your company. This slide outlines the key steps in the AI-powered supplier onboarding process. Of course, you want to start with gathering basic supplier information like name, location, products, regions served. You then want to request and collect all required documentation from suppliers like STSs, declarations of conformity. The AI system can then parse, classify these documents, extract key data that you need. You then use the data to risk score each supplier based on factors like region, products, like we've discussed before. You integrate all this supplier information into your compliance monitoring dashboard for ongoing tracking and management. And as you can imagine, any new automated process like these can save 10 to 14 days per supplier onboarded compared to any sort of manual approach. Also keep in mind things like, you can imagine the experience that you give your suppliers. They don't have to fill in forms. They don't have to send in any documents in a particular format. They can just dump in, any documents and the AI can analyze and read it, for them. Compliance is critical and it needs to start early in the design process. AI-powered tools can help identify potential compliance issues proactively. These tools suggest alternative materials that are lower risk and more likely to pass certification. They can predict compliance issues based on historical data about similar products, and they can flag risky parts or components that may have poor supplier coverage history. This also allows companies to address problems before they become costly issues during certification. As an example, in another case that we had, a smart home device brand was able to swap out 4 components before the BOM freeze, avoiding 100K in redesign costs after certification. So, you don't have to wait for your BOM to be in market. You can imagine there's a BOM that's created by the design team. You can just dump it into a platform like Certivo or into your own AI solution. It'll analyze it, flag parts, flag what needs certification, etc. And maybe you can swap out components early on or swap in suppliers early on before you actually are in market or before the design is complete. So as you can imagine, this would bring the R&D teams closer to your compliance and engineering teams. And now you're working collaboratively as one unit, giving information back to your R&D teams proactively, as opposed to waiting for you to be more reactive in the whole process. Compliance risk is a critical issue in multi-tier supply chains, often buried deep in tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers. AI-powered solutions can help address this challenge by one, analyzing source declarations to uncover hidden compliance risks, applying fuzzy matching across supplier-submitted part numbers to detect gaps in traceability, identifying weaknesses in the supply chain where compliance issues may be lurking. In one example, in our case, a telecom firm was able to uncover a tier 2 supplier that was using a restricted PVC formulation, which they may not have detected without these AI capabilities. So by proactively identifying, mitigating compliance risks across the entire supply chain network, organizations can protect their brand reputation and avoid these costly disruptions. This slide outlines our AI-powered solution for language localization of technical documents. I think we all know that supply chain is global. You have this problem where there's a need to translate documents submitted in various languages like Mandarin, German, Japanese. You might be an English firm here in the United States. An AI-based approach can automatically translate safety data sheets, other compliance documentations, while maintaining the accuracy of chemical terminology and preserving document structure. This has had a significant impact, I know in our case for our customers, cutting their translation review workload by 85% and enabling them to onboard 35 new Chinese suppliers much faster for the EU market. As you can imagine, in many companies, I've seen personally that people hire folks who can speak a certain language only to do a translation. Can you imagine the cost savings that you'd get with an AI-powered workflow like this? This side-by-side comparison image demonstrates how a solution can accurately translate technical content while maintaining the professional formatting. This slide outlines a use case for AI-based regulatory gap analysis. A company might inherit a product line or a supplier base that needs to assess its risk profile. So the key steps are one, ingest all available documentation. Number two, classify against known regulatory frameworks. Number three, score compliance status as compliant, incomplete, or at risk. An example here shows how a contract manufacturer, in our case, acquired a new brand, was able to identify that 45% of supplier documentation was incomplete, avoid almost $500,000 in potential fines by addressing these compliance gaps. Again, an AI-based approach allows for a comprehensive data-driven assessment to quickly identify and mitigate regulatory risks when taking on new business. So another use case for some of you to think about, very useful on taking on some new cases. Maybe you want to buy a brand, you want to assess how compliant they are. This could be a way AI can help you speed up the process. Oh, I already went through this slide. Let me go to the next one. A key challenge that we're also addressing using AI-powered solutions is how to achieve speed to market without cutting corners on compliance and quality. To solve this, you front-load document collection processes during the sourcing stage. So again, trying to bring the process as upfront as possible. Use AI to rapidly read and validate all your documents in under 24 hours. This gives compliance teams real-time updates, ensuring the product launch is 100% audit-ready. In our case, again, to give you an example, a consumer electronics firm was able to launch 12 new SKUs globally in just 6 weeks while maintaining full audit readiness. This was enabled through rapid compliance verification, which integrates seamlessly into their fast-paced manufacturing environment. So being able to use these AI tools into different parts of the entire process, whether you're sourcing, procuring, designing, is going to help you ingest and be the overseer of all these processes, providing feedback again back to these teams, moving again the process to be more proactive, like we discussed, as opposed to reactive. This slide outlines another use case of how AI leveraged in a crisis response scenario, specifically around product recalls and enforcement. The key problem highlighted is when a late-stage product is flagged by a consumer or a regulator as having an issue. The AI's role in this scenario would be to trace the problematic substance or certification back to the supplier, identify any similar parts that may be at risk, quickly create a mitigation plan, all within a matter of hours. An example in our case, again, shows how an AI system was able to trace contamination to 3 specific parts, flag 41 other SKUs, and limit the recall to just 2 lots instead of the entire product family. This demonstrates the speed and precision that AI can bring to crisis response, helping companies act quickly to contain issues and minimize any disruption. Here's another use case in the case of ESG disclosures. They are increasingly requiring companies to provide detailed information on the provenance and traceability of their materials and processes. AI can help by linking compliance documentation to ESG metrics, such as for conflict minerals reporting. This provides a transparent audit trail that enables dual reporting, meeting both compliance and ESG disclosure requirements. Again, a real-world example is a publicly traded OEM, in our case, that use Certivo AI to align their ESG and compliance disclosures, ensuring SEC readiness. The integration of compliance data into the ESG report provides stakeholders with a comprehensive view of companies' sustainability performance and regulatory adherence. All right, so we saw a lot of good tactical examples. We saw some use cases of AI and how it could fit into the process. Like we said, the goal is to get from reactive to proactive, to be able to bridge the gap between R&D teams and other teams across the entire manufacturing process, and ingest compliance, documentation, analysis, and decision-making closer without the need to just throw in more people or more reactive processes, slow processes into the process. The goal is, how do we speed up this entire process? And let's use AI to automate parts that are manual and focus on the parts that are more strategic in nature. This slide outlines a roadmap for building an AI-powered compliance transformation journey in your company. Consists of 4 stages: foundation, automation, intelligence, and extension. In the foundation stage, the focus is on centralizing documents, bill of materials, supplier data. We want to put all that together. The automation stage involves parsing data, setting up reminders, automating rule checking. The intelligence stage introduces dashboards, audits, risk scoring capabilities. And then the extension stage takes things further by predictive compliance, ESG alignment, supply chain scoring. The time frame for reaching maturity with consistent adoption, in our view, we've seen 90 to 180 days. So, 3 to 6 months. And this roadmap will provide a structured approach to leveraging AI to enhance compliance processes and capabilities. Again, don't boil the ocean. It can be complicated. There's a lot to be done here. So the easiest way is to get started slowly, and is to get started by starting with the first step. Like I said, before you even think about a 90 to 180 day plan, remember we talked about a 7-day plan initially. So start there, just to test out how might a scalable system work. 1 bill of materials, 50 parts, kind of break down all these processes that we discussed today and put it together into which parts of that can be automated and which can be thrown to an AI system, and which ones need manual review, flagging, decision making. And then once that's successful, then you go ahead with a full-fledged 60 or 90 to 180 day transformation journey. And again, it starts with these 4 stages: foundation, automation, intelligence, and extension. One thing that we've also seen work in other companies is to build something that we call a task force. Compliance is not just the responsibility of the compliance team. It requires cross-functional collaboration. For those of you in the software development world, you might know that there's this phase that says, hey, quality is not only a quality engineer's responsibility, it's the team's responsibility. So whether you're a software engineer, whether you're a product manager, whether you're the QA engineer, everyone is accountable for quality. And that's exactly how you want to approach compliance as well. It's just quality at the end of the day. Key teams to involve are, of course, compliance product stewardship. These folks are the experts, provide regulatory expertise, help design the compliance framework. But you have procurement, managing supplier access contracts or operations, ensure parts, BOMs, manufacturing specs aligned with compliance requirements, IT data to integrate everything into ERP, PLM systems bring all this data from there. Legal, of course, provide interpretations and documentation requirements. So you can imagine if this team comes together as a compliance workforce led by the compliance team, then you can see some of these advantages that we've seen today. Our focus or our recommendation to our clients is to assign a compliance ops lead to coordinate the cross-functional effort, drive rollouts, track all these metrics that we've been discussing. The key challenge we often face when introducing AI is getting buy-in from the team. We hear common concerns like, hey, our spreadsheet works fine, or we don't trust AI to make those decisions. And to address these concerns, I recommend, again, starting small. Start with a small single use case, like using AI to validate an ROHS SDS documentation. This will allow us to demonstrate the value and build trust. Again, remember, AI is not the be-all, end-all. It's not replacement. It's empowering. It is addition to what you're doing. It's helping you speed up your processes. It's helping you speed up what you do day in and day out. It's also important to position AI as an assistant, and that's very important. It's not a decision maker. Emphasize how AI will save you time and effort without fully automating critical decisions. Showing the time savings from an early pilot can be very compelling. And you should also share the risk exposure if you don't adopt to these new technologies. The goal is to get the team excited about the benefits of AI while addressing their valid concerns about change and trust. With the right approach, I'm confident, and I've seen that with all our clients, that you can build momentum and expand the use of AI across your organization. Again, the key word is it's not a replacement. It's an assistant to help speed up processes in your particular case. Here's an example of a rhythm of business that you can follow within your company. Every Monday, review newly flagged supplier documents to stay on top of any compliance issues. Check your dashboard for any expired or missing certifications. Notify the relevant owners, the supplier, the part, and the product team. High-risk parts, triage them for a more thorough human review. Report our progress on the weekly operations or quality meeting. Every month, run a full AI sweep on all your compliance documents, catch anything that might be missed, validate the top risks manually to ensure consistency. Finally, share monthly compliance metrics with your leadership team. Now, if you follow a cadence like this, where you have this rhythm of business running weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, you can create an efficient process that uses manual review, AI, decision-making all into one particular process that can really help speed up what we are discussing here. Here's an example of a sample template that can go to your suppliers. This template provides a clear and professional way to request updated compliance documents from suppliers. The subject line sets the context. We are refreshing our product compliance records to meet new regulatory requirements. The body outlines what we need the supplier to provide: a list of parts, safety data sheets, ROHS declarations, any exemptions. Give the supplier a deadline to submit the documentation and provide instructions on how to upload it. Closing is a polite and provides the supplier with a point of contact for our compliance team. Overall, the email strikes the right tone. It's formal, but not overly rigid, and gives the supplier all the information they need to respond effectively. Again, with platforms like Certivo and using the power of generative AI, these emails can be automatically generated. They can be personalized for your appropriate supplier base. This slide outlines the key performance indicators, KPIs, that you can track monthly to ensure the success of your automated compliance program and the success of your document processing automation initiative. The first KPI is the percentage of documents processed by AI, which shows how well we're adopting the new automation technology. For example, hey, our target is 90%. Next, you're tracking average time to process a new document from upload to validation. Target is under 6 hours. Monitor percentage of documents that are flagged at risk and aim to keep it under 10%. Helps us identify any issues. Audit readiness coverage is a critical metric. You want 95% of your bill of materials, for example, to have complete documentation. Finally, you track supplier response rate within 7 days, as this engagement metric shows how well your suppliers are participating in the process. And by closely monitoring these KPIs, you can identify areas of potential improvement and ensure that you're making progress towards your automation goals. So that's kind of, how you want to think about the world. Here's an example. You can highlight key compliance achievement that you've made over the past quarter. This is an example where you can show some impressive metrics. Hey, 85% reduction in audit prep time, 73% of faster supply doc turnaround, 19 risks avoided, 3,400 documents automated, validated, et cetera, et cetera. You can explain how these metrics demonstrate real business impact and ROI of your compliance efforts. Emphasize that, that we don't want to just say we are compliant, but we want to quantify the tangible benefits. Note that we use dashboards and quarterly updates in our operations and executive reviews to keep your leadership informed. And so it helps you clearly communicate your compliance wins and the value that you're driving for the business. This is, again, key to kind of show the success of how you're driving true measurable value for the business, and how you're using AI to be able to speed up this entire process. Here's one example, again, from the Certivo's case. This case study highlights how a large European supplier of metal housing used AI technology to streamline their REACH compliance processes. The company had to manage HVAC declarations across 1,800 parts, supplier base of over 350 companies. As you can imagine, a significant administrative burden. But by using the Certivo platform, you're able to automatically pass safety data sheets, generate the required REACH declarations, and this will reduce their turnaround by almost 75%. The system also created a compliance dashboard for internal quality assurance, automatically notified suppliers of missing documentation. As a result, the company was able to identify 62 parts with outdated or non-conformant certificates and sales teams that could respond faster to OEM queries. Overall, this demonstrates how AI can be leveraged to improve efficiencies and compliance in complex regulatory environments like REACH. Here's another example. In the case of Certivo, this case study highlights how a medical device manufacturer automated their audit dossier processes by using Certivo. The company was audited twice yearly and required various certifications like ROHS, REACH, conflict minerals, and ISO. They used Certivo to classify all their documents, generate traceability reports. This allowed them to easily export pre-audit packets based on their bill of materials and audit scope. Certivo also validated their supplier declarations against regulatory thresholds. As a result, they were able to cut their audit prep time from 3 weeks down to just 2 days. They passed their audits with 0 requests for additional supplier information. The automation also enabled them to conduct internal compliance reviews every 30 days or so. Just giving you more examples of how other companies have leveraged it and how you as well in your company can do so. This case study highlights how a global PCB manufacturer proactively addressed upcoming PFAS regulations to avoid a product recall. The company had a large portfolio, over 2,000 parts, but had not proactively done any CAS level analysis to analyze PFAS content. They used AI to pass their legacy safety data sheets, cross-referencing the CAS numbers against PFAS restricted lists. This allowed them to identify 36 parts containing PFAS above the 0.1 threshold. The company then engaged their R&D team to work on substituting the PFAS materials in those 36 parts, allowing them to avoid a product hold. And as you can imagine, this proactive approach also enabled them to create a comprehensive PFAS risk map for their full product line and position themselves as a compliance-forward supplier in their customer marketing. And that, I think, is another key piece here. As a company, you can think about marketing your compliance processes as a competitive edge to your customers, as opposed to just thinking about it for your internal processes. This can be a significant driver towards helping you make your brand also put out there as someone who's ahead of the game when it comes to their compliance processes. Well, I've painted a very rosy picture, but there's also pushbacks that you're going to see all the time. Common supplier pushbacks we often encounter include claims that they don't have a required document, they only provide certain information on requests, or their legal department doesn't allow them to fill out forms. To handle these pushbacks, thanks to, again, companies like Certivo or, again, your own processes, you can offer flexible upload options like, hey, just dump in a PDF, Excel, or scan documents to make it easier for your suppliers. thanks to AI, again, because of its ability to parse documents, there's no real need now to, provide data in a particular format. You can also share the regulatory obligations that require us to collect this information, such as EU REACH, demonstrate why we need their cooperation. Using AI-powered tools, you can pass supplier data in any format, remove the burden of them filling out these forms. So trying to make it very easy for suppliers to just send in a document through an email, for example, upload it onto a portal, and then having that document getting passed by AI just makes the process very easy for them, so they don't have to fill out forms, etc. For lower risk suppliers, you can implement a tiered approach, only escalating the high risk cases that require more hands-on engagement. So you can classify and say, I'm not going to really send all requests to them for all documentation, just the ones that are maybe flagged as high risk. So that as well can help engage them better. You can build out something like a supplier scorecard, and it's a great way to drive long-term accountability within your supplier base. You can track metrics like document completeness, response time, historical non-compliance, use of outdated formats, language machine readability status. This allows you to tier your suppliers based on performance. You can, for example, say, hey, top tier A supplier like Tech Metals gets an auto review and is considered a preferred partner. A middle tier B supplier like Sinochem may need more oversight and escalation if they're delayed. And a lower tier C supplier like Plastic Link could be flagged for phase out if they consistently underperform. So that's a way you can create like a supplier dashboard of sorts. This slide highlights a collection of templates and tools that can be easily copied and that can be used to streamline various compliance and risk management tasks. I forgot to put a link here, at the bottom. I was going to add the Certivo resource hub, but I will provide that to you folks, here as part of this, wherever this video is posted, you'll see a link to our resource hub here. Essentially, there's a bunch of tools that you can use. A risk matrix is an Excel-based tool that maps out and manage risks in a structured way. You have the regulation mapping sheet that allows you to track how different regulations and requirements map to your organization's documentation. You have the review list checklist that provides a weekly checklist to ensure AI systems are being reviewed and monitored effectively. The email template, like we already talked about. The audit readiness scorecard helps you assess and track your preparedness for upcoming audits. And again, like I said, I'll make sure to give you this link directly at the end of this webinar, or wherever this webinar is posted, and you should be able to access all these. They're also available on the Certivo website, of course. Okay, where to expand next? The key message of this slide is that there are many, many opportunities to expand your supply chain sustainability efforts beyond just STS and COC parsing. Here are five specific cases you could consider: supply ESG declarations, country of origin validation, EU deforestation, regulatory traceability, carbon disclosure parsing, tier 2 and tier 3 compliance linkage. As you can imagine, once you have the basic processes in place with AI interjecting throughout your compliance workflows, each of these areas can represent an opportunity to go deeper and get more visibility into your supply chain. This slide emphasizes that AI can help power this expansion one framework at a time. The technology is there to support you as you're tackling these new challenges. Again, the overall goal is to continue to advance your supply chain sustainability program and drive greater transparency and accountability. And here's the year, that I'm sure all of you are, ready to be part of. 2025 has a bunch of different regulations that are upcoming. And so hopefully, you can get ahead of these. TISCA, PFAS enforcement is starting, requiring companies to track and report on PFAS chemicals. REACH candidate list expanding twice per year, adding more substances of very high concern. I think as the recording of this webinar, there were 3 new HVHCs that were added into REACH. EU deforestation traceability requirements for food, palm, and paper products, tightening of Chinese ROHS and India e-waste rules, impacting electronics and electrical products, SEC ESG disclosure requirements impacting supply sustainability data and reporting. And again, the goal is, to build a compliance calendar now using AI-powered rule triggers to stay on top of these upcoming changes. Look, At the end of the day, AI-driven compliance can give you a competitive advantage in the market. It allows you to get to market faster by automating compliance processes. It reduces the cost of compliance by streamlining operations. You can respond faster to OEM audits, proactively monitor for compliance risks. This frees up your compliance teams to focus on higher value strategic work. Embedding AI into your compliance operations means you stop just reacting and you start leading. And in 2026, there's going to be a lot more shifts that we're already starting to see. So, getting ahead of these basic AI processes are going to help you a lot. The key shifts we're already seeing in compliance are moving from document review to continuous monitoring, from static declarations to real-time updates, from annual audits to dynamic dashboards, and from compliance as a cost center to a launch enabler. Some of the emerging AI-powered capabilities we'll see by 2026 include pre-market regulatory scans of new products, automatic updates to regulatory frameworks, predictive risk scoring for suppliers, language independent parsing and communication. These advancements will enable companies to stay on top of ever-changing regulation, reduce the manual effort, and leverage compliance as a strategic advantage rather than the cost of doing business. The goal is to make compliance more proactive, data-driven, and integrated into common business processes rather than a reactive, manual, and siloed function. Again, I won't go through all of these in great detail, but here's an example of an overview of the new and updated regulations by region, as well as an AI readiness opportunities for each of these regions. Just to give you one specific example, in the EU, we're seeing updates to EUDR, REACH, battery regulation, AI readiness opportunity years around CAS parsing and supplier mapping. So you can see, and then the others exist here as well. Again, imagine tracking all these manually, spreadsheets, emails to suppliers, etc. You want to build a compliance system that can manage all this for you at scale. The slide provides an overview of the most common global regulatory frameworks that companies need to be aware and comply with. I don't think this is new to most of you. It highlights key regulations from the EU and US, including REACH, ROHS, EUDR, SCIP, database, DISCA, conflict minerals, Prop 65. For each regulation, the slide lists the specific requirements that companies need to track and report on, such as HVAC tracking, substance disclosures, 3TG tracing, warning threshold enforcement. Again, the goal is to make companies aware of the comprehensive set of regulations that need to be monitored and build capabilities to address in order to fulfill and ensure full compliance across the global operations and supply chains. So here's your final checklist for the program as we kind of end or get close to the end of this webinar. This slide outlines key components of an AI-ready compliance program that we have been working to implement. Number one, we've established a centralized document repository to manage all our compliance-related information and documentation. Bill of materials now includes detailed supplier part mapping, which is critical for effective compliance monitoring. We've connected our AI parsing engine to the latest regulatory rule sets, allowing us to automatically identify, flag potential compliance issues. We have expiry tracking and reminder systems in place to stay on top of deadlines and renewals. Risk scoring logic we've identified helps us prioritize our compliance efforts based on their risk profile and each part and supplier. Weekly triage workflow ensures we are proactively managing compliance issues as they arise. Remember, we talked about the rhythm of business. The executive metrics dashboard provides visibility into our compliance performance and progress, and supplier response tracking helps us monitor and follow up on any issues or requests from our supply chain partners. So hopefully this gives you a comprehensive overview of how to think about embedding AI into your entire compliance workflow to proactively manage this entire process. And just to kind of finalize the key takeaways on this slide, summarize the main points we've covered in the presentation so far, just to kind of put it all together very quickly. Number one, we've discussed the hidden costs and challenges of compliance bottlenecks and how AI can accelerate document handling, triage, and validation. I shared some guidance on where to start with AI and what to avoid, as well as real-world tactics used by manufacturers to successfully deploy AI. We've also covered the importance of training our team, tracking the successes of your AI initiatives. We've also touched on upcoming changes in global regulations that you'll need to be aware of. The overarching message if there's one big takeaway here today, is that you don't need to overhaul everything at once. You can start small, build momentum with AI. And like I said, the keywords here are around assistance as opposed to replacement. AI can assist you, help you go faster by taking away the manual tasks as opposed to trying to, have you only focus on everything. Don't look at AI as the be all end all. Definitely don't look at it as a complete replacement of your role. It's really empowering you to go faster, to be able to gain a competitive edge in the market that you can also use for your marketing and branding efforts as a company towards your customers. All right. So with that being said, certainly ask me anything, that you'd like here as part of this webinar, but more importantly, also if you have, any questions offline, you can certainly get in touch with us at Certivo. You can email me directly at kunal@certivo.com. You can set up a meeting with us by going through certivo.com. You can email also us, our general team, at hello@certivo.com. In the rest of this presentation, I've also included a bunch of bonus, the compliance dashboard, the risk matrix, dashboard, audit trail transparency log. I'll send you all these slides after this webinar. The audit packet generator, all these tools that are out there that, that you can use. And again, like I said, you can essentially download these from Certivo's website or as part of this webinar. I will just put all this together. And so the main message, just to kind of wrap everything up, is that AI and technology transformation in compliance is not just about automation. Okay, you might think about this as an operational efficiency issue, but it's not. It's about building credibility, speed, and market trust. You should, at the end of the day, leave with this one message, that AI won't replace your compliance team. It's going to make you 10 times more effective. And I think that's the key here. AI is not going to replace your compliance team. It's just going to make it 10 times more effective. Okay? You must leave today here with, hey, I have a pilot plan, in which I can start using AI either through Certivo or on your own. But now you know how the process works. 7 days to start, one bill of materials, identifying areas where AI can be used, a framework on how to align your team around this transformation. You have checklists now to guide the implementation, but a new mindset, more importantly, to view compliance as a competitive advantage and not a cost center. Okay? The focus, like I said, and I'm going to repeat it again and again and again, is on augmenting human expertise, not replacing it. Augmenting human expertise, not replacing it. The goal is to equip your audience, procurement, leadership, sales, IT, with the tools and mindset to drive a successful compliance transformation in your organization. Okay, so with that being said, I want to thank you again for your time. I really, very blessed to be part of this journey with you today and for your commitment to compliance. It's been a pleasure to connect with all of you. Been really grateful to share this opportunity, some resources and support that we can provide you to help you stay ahead of the curve and always be market ready. At Certivo, we have 2 hashtags, #always-compliant, #always-market-ready. I love to connect with all of you. Please, connect with me on LinkedIn, contact us directly at certivo.com, email me, like I said, and let's try to, help you all be always compliant and always market ready. All right. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great day. I appreciate everyone's time today.